Hello, everyone, and welcome to our daily letter of the day learning video. Today's letter is the letter C, and letter C is for camping. So if your name has a C, stand up. If your name has a C, stand up. If your name has a C, if your name has a C, if your name has a C, stand up. So this is the letter C, uppercase and lowercase c. And I decorated my letter C with cotton balls. C is for cotton balls, but C is also for camping. And I'm pretending that the cotton balls are like marshmallows. So that's just one idea for you to decorate your C today. And if you don't have cotton balls, you could even just use crayons and color, because both of those also start with the letter C. Now we're going to try to write the letter C for handwriting time. So to make a letter C, all you have to do is just curve around, just like that. Just curve around. On the handwriting house, I'll show you what that looks like. You're going to start near the top, and you're just going to curve around all the way to the bottom. So let's do it. Curve around and back up just a little bit. Curve around. You can try on handwriting paper like this. The link below will take you to the spot where you can get this and all the worksheets for the week and a lesson plan. You can use your own paper, or if you have no paper, you can even skywrite. Okay, so that is the letter C. And now we're going to make the lowercase letter C. Let's look back at our card. The uppercase and lowercase C look the same. The lowercase c is just smaller. So just curve around and make a smaller letter C. On the handwriting house, this lowercase or little c is going to be downstairs. So you're just going to curve around downstairs. Curve around. You can pause and practice some more, or you can just watch and practice later if you like. But the more you practice, the more it sticks. So I'd love to check and cheer for you. Would you make that letter C, or hold up your paper, or just skywrite right now? Great work. Thank you for doing your handwriting. Good job. Okay, well, now we're going to do some phonics, and we're going to talk about what letter C sounds like. The letter C sounds like this. Ka, ka, ka. Can you try making that sound? Letter C says ka, ka, ka. Very good. Letter C says ka, 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 as in cut. So take your fingers and pretend that they are scissors and you're cutting. Do you ever get your hair cut sometimes? Well, letter C says ka, 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 as in cut. Well, we already know what letter A sounds like. Letter A sounds like achoo. Excuse me, everybody. As I was saying, letter A says achoo. We just learned the letter A, and I bet you remember that it says as in achoo. Well, we're going to do some blending today. We're going to put that letter A on the board, and then we're going to put a letter C with it. This is an early reading skill. Okay, so we're just going to blend these two sounds together. First, let's just remember what each sound makes. What does C say all by itself? Ka, ka, ka. And what does A say? Ah. Okay, so let's put these two sounds together. K, ah, ka, 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 ka. You just did some blending. Cat is like the beginning of the word cat, or cap, or camp. Ka. Well, you are on your way to reading. We'll keep practicing and blending. But right now, though, I think we need to do some math. And I want to build a campfire today. And I want to roast some marshmallows. And I wondered if you would help me to pick up some sticks and count how many we get. All right, so here we go. Will you help me count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I have a nice bundle of sticks for our campfire. And did you know that before we make a campfire, I'm going to use some of those sticks to make the number 7, which is our number we're going to be working on this week. So to make a number 7, you need a straight line, just like this straight stick. And then you need a diagonal line like this one. So that's the number 7. You can use sticks to make a number 7 today too if you want to. 7. Okay, now we're going to try to write the number 7. And remember that straight stick went across like this? And then we had like a diagonal stick or a diagonal line like a slide. So this is how you make number 7, go across and slide down. On the handwriting house, you're going to just go across the top and then you're going to slide down to the bottom. So across and slide, across and slide, across and slide. That is how you make a number 7. You did a great job counting and writing. I want to see if you can help me do some measuring too for math today. We're going to be using marshmallows to measure with. So take a look at this sheet. Okay, remember the link will be below if you want to get this and print it and do this with me, or you can just do it right now together on the screen. We're going to move the marshmallows over beside these campground things like a big tall tree and count how many marshmallows tall they each are. So help me count the marshmallows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this tall tree is 5 marshmallows tall. Now let's see if we can measure the tent. So let's move the marshmallows over right beside the tent and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the tent is 4 marshmallows tall. Now let's measure the lantern. 1, 2, 3, 4. The lantern is about 4 marshmallows tall. Now let's measure the campfire. 1, 2, 3. The campfire is 3 marshmallows tall. Finally, let's measure the sleeping bag. 1, 2. The sleeping bag is 2 marshmallows tall, and there's still 1 marshmallow left, so I think we should eat that one. So open your mouth. Here it comes. I'm going to toss it in. That was yummy. I love marshmallows. Well, this week we're going to be working on the color purple. So I'm going to teach you a song that will help you to learn how to spell purple. You can clap along if you want to. P-U-R-P-L-E, purple, purple. P-U-R-P-L-E, purple is what that spells. Purple grapes on the vine, purple Kool-Aid's fine. P-U-R-P-L-E, purple is what that spells. We're going to practice that all week. Don't worry. And by the end, you'll know how to spell purple. We're even going to make purple this week by combining 2 other colors. Well, we want to introduce our shape, and it is going to be the trapezoid this week. And this is my friend Travis Trapezoid. I'm Travis Trapezoid. I'm so great. I have 4 sides, 2 slanted and 2 straight. So a trapezoid has 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of the sides are straight and 2 of the sides are slanted. Now I have another poem that I like to teach for the trapezoid, and it goes like this. Poor, poor trapezoid has no top. He used to be a triangle, but now he's not. So a trapezoid looks like a triangle with no top. Well, we're going to do an art project now, so let's head over to the art table and do a campfire scene. I'll see you there. Okay, so for art today, we're going to be making this campfire scene. I'm just going to break it apart and show you how to do it, but the link will be below so that you can get this too. Basically, I'm just taking a paper plate and I'm coloring part of it blue and part of it black. That's the daytime and nighttime when you're camping. There is a sun I glued on this side and a moon down here. Then I took a half of a plate, and I colored it green like the grass. Purple is our color this week, so I made a purple tent by just cutting a triangle and a little slit that I could open. And then I just put a tree here. And then I put a brad. I'll show you, I'll do that right now. I put a brad in the middle of the paper plate, and then I'll go on the back so I can bend it back and show you how this works. So when you turn it like this, it's the daytime. And when you turn it around like this, it's the nighttime when you're camping. So that was a fun little art project. Now let's talk about camping and do some science and social studies. I love our little art project. I'll show it to you one more time over here. There's the nighttime and the daytime. Well, there are some things that you need when you go camping. One of the things that is nice to have is a tent. And so here we see some tents. Camping is just sleeping and staying outside for a little while. And you can use a tent because it helps to keep you dry in case there's rain. And also it helps to keep the bugs off of you at night when you're trying to sleep or rest. You also need to make a campfire so that you can roast marshmallows, so that you can stay warm or even cook on the campfire. Something else that's nice to have is a sleeping bag. A sleeping bag is kind of like a bed on the go. You can unroll it, you can get in it, and it keeps you nice and snugly warm when you're trying to sleep at night. It's dark out in the forest, which is where most people usually camp. So it's a good idea to take a flashlight so you can see. The only light at night are the stars and the moon. It's very nice. You can also go hiking while you're camping. You can roast marshmallows. You can do some bird watching or even look for wildlife like these deer. Well, I hope you had some fun learning a little bit about camping. Maybe you'd like to pretend you're camping in your living room. Set out a blanket and maybe a flashlight and you could even make a tent with a sheet and some chairs. Have some fun today. Get some books and have a good time. I have a book that I want to read to you now. It's called Curious George Goes Camping by Margaret and H.A. Rays. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This weekend, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, had special plans. They were going camping. At the campsite, the man with the yellow hat unpacked their gear while George looked at all the tents. He saw tents for big families and one just the right size for a puppy. There were even tents on wheels. "Would you like to help put up our tent, George?" the man asked. George was happy to help. It would not be hard to set up a tent, he thought, but it wasn't easy. "George, why don't you just fill our bucket with water at the pump?" his friend suggested. "We'll need it by our campfire later when we roast marshmallows." Marshmallows. George loved marshmallows. He couldn't wait to try them roasted. "Now, don't wander off and get into trouble," the man warned, but George didn't hear him. He was already gone. At the pump, George worked the handle up and down. Soon his bucket was full. On the way back down the trail, he saw a family packing up. George watched a girl pour her bucket of water on a campfire. The fire sizzled out. George thought that looked like fun. He poured his bucket of water on the next campfire. "Hey," yelled a camper, "we weren't finished with that yet." The camper began to chase George, but George didn't mean to cause trouble. Now he only wanted to hide. He ran into the forest as fast as he could, but the camper's footsteps followed close behind. George ran faster and faster. The footsteps came closer and closer until suddenly they were passing George. Why, it was not the camper chasing George. It was a deer. What fun to run with a deer. Forgetting all about the camper and the marshmallows, George ran after the deer. But a little monkey cannot run as fast as a deer in the woods. Before long, George was lost and all alone. He felt tired and stopped to rest. At first, he was worried. He was very far from camp. But there were lots of other animals to keep him company. He saw a lizard sunning on a rock and a squirrel chattering in a tree. He saw the tail of a black and white kitty peeking out from under a bush. He was curious. Would the kitty want to play? George gently pulled the kitty out. But it wasn't a kitty at all. It was a skunk, and it was scared. The skunk lifted its tail and sprayed. P.U. The spray smelled awful. The animals tried to get away. George wanted to get away too, but he couldn't. The smell was all over him. How could he ever get rid of this awful smell, he wondered. Too bad he couldn't take a bath in the woods. Or could he? George had an idea. He could wash the smell off in the creek. George jumped into the cold water. He splashed and scrubbed, but he was still smelly, and now he was wet too. But what could he do? George thought and thought. If he climbed up a tree to dry off, would the smell blow away? Nope. Even dry and high up in the tree, George did not smell better. Poor George. He wished he hadn't wandered so far from camp. He wished he were roasting marshmallows with his friend. Suddenly, George heard footsteps heading toward him. Someone was coming. It was the forest animals, but they ran right by him. They had seen something scary, and George saw it too. It was a fire. George had gotten into trouble for putting out one fire, but this fire wasn't in the campground. This was an emergency. Quickly, George climbed down the tree and grabbed his bucket. He scooped it full of water in the creek. Then, being careful not to spill, he climbed back up and swung from branch to branch through the trees. When George got close enough to the fire, he reached down and poured the water on the flames. Out went the fire with a big hiss. Just then, George's friend rushed over and with a forest ranger. "George, I was afraid you'd be here," said the man with the yellow hat. "It's a good thing you were here, George," said the ranger. "We saw smoke from the campground, but you put it out just in time." George was glad to help, and the man with the yellow hat was glad to see that George was safe, but he had a funny look on his face. "George, what's that smell?" Back at the campsite, George's friend helped him get rid of the awful smell. After a strange bath in tomato juice, George smelled fine. Then the man with the yellow hat invited the ranger to cook dinner with them over their own small campfire. "Fires can be nice if you're careful," said the ranger. And George agreed, especially for roasting marshmallows. Well, I hope you had some fun today with letter C. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Happy camping.